Absolutely. Welcome to the Four Checks cast, or I guess today the Three Checks cast, because we are missing a guest member or a
Listen, we can
host.
still have
Not,
four
not a guest
checks.
member, an
We just have
official
to
member.
all put in 30% more checks.
There you go. So, we are your three remaining checks. I am Justin Birch,
I'm Kevin Broberg.
And I'm Will Godby.
and we're here to talk about what is going on in universes. So, this week has been reveal week. We've had a bunch of characters revealed, but we've had a bunch of non-characters revealed as well. And before we really dig into our personal reveal, which I promise you're going to want to stay tuned for, I think we want to take an opportunity to just highlight a couple of the cards that we thought were really special, really interesting from this reveal season. And we wanted to focus on some non-character ones because the character ones have gotten a lot of attention. But there are some really good non-character cards, or really interesting non-character cards, that haven't gotten as much discussion. So we each picked out one. We're going to start with Will's. Will, do you want to talk about the card that you decided on?
Sure, let me pull up on my side.
So while you're doing that, I'm gonna pitch the blurb. So this is all previews for Attack on Titan Apocalypse, a set that's dropping in the start of May. Pre-orders are for your Jesus Christ, my ad reads are
Are you okay?
atrocious.
Take a breath.
Holy shit. Yeah, pre-orders are live. If you pre-register for your store by April 25th, you'll get 180 points, 3x points to play in the Attack on Titan Apocalypse pre-release. Yeah, they're running between the 9th and the 15th, and yeah, the full release is on the 16th. This is your first chance to play with these cards, and it's we're all very excited to check these out and play this in person. If you sign up, you get extra points. It's gonna be sick.
And beyond that, I do want to throw in an extra thing that's not quite in the blurb but is important. Please, if you have a locals with a pre-release, please go to it. Always support your locals. These pre-releases are how they help get the money to show that the game's worth supporting, to get more product. So you showing up is going to make your store better. So please, 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 if you have your locals, go to your local pre-release.
Yeah, and when you do go to your locals, just because it's the apocalypse doesn't mean you can skip on personal hygiene, take a shower, be a responsible citizen. Still
Wear
important.
deodorant.
Yes.
Not to mention that people walking in and seeing people play the game gets eyes on the game.
Abs. 100%.
Right, I'm good if you guys are.
Yeah, so that's
Right, yeah.
There's the shill, there's the get our ad read out of the way. So let's go ahead and talk about what has been revealed this week. Will, would you like to go first?
So my card's not super exciting. I just really appreciate it. It's got some really good numbers on it. I like the artwork. It's just really cool. I personally picked Furious Engagement. It's the 5-diff Fury weapon, 3 high 7. If it's the first thing you played this turn, it gets +2 speed. Oh, sorry, if it's the only card in your card pool, it's a little bit better. It gets +2 speed,
yeah.
so it becomes a 5 high 7. If your opponent cycled, which is another cool thing they're doing with this set, there's all this anti-cycling stuff. It gets an extra. It gets 5 speed instead of 2, so it becomes a 8/7. Not to mention, this card is also a +0 mid block. This card has really good numbers on it. It has the air symbol, which is really good at getting cards out of your card pool. So the odds of this card being the only attack in your card pool is pretty high. It has a lot of versatility, and a character that clears their pool. It's just usually always very fast. It's a really good poke card. It just has good numbers on it, and that's why I like it. And it's uncommon. That's the cool part.
Oh yeah, this is one of those cards I look at and just go, this is gonna kill people in sealed. And you might not think of it because well, it has to be the only thing in the card pool, but there are a lot of moments in sealed where a 5 or in the later game an 8 speed move is just something you're not prepared for. I'm almost a little terrified for a +0 mid block to be in an uncommon slot in the sealed environment. The fact that you are going to have to math around your opponent might have a +0 mid. I can't decide if that's really cool or not. But it is something. It is something very different than what we normally see.
Yeah, good block mods. It's like you said, you have to consider if you're willing to plan around. You have to consider it broadens the range of what's possible, and that's always exciting and interesting and kind of skill testing, right? If you play around it when you didn't have to, if you can get a read, these things are all very valuable. And
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what people when building decks don't always respect the value of just this is a stat stick and this is a stat stick that is hard to answer. I think the fact that this card is already good stats immediately, but is even better when you're in the later stages of the game means that this card has a ton of value. I also do like, because you mentioned that the rival cycling is a thing this game. I don't know who's been listening to George Zhang and decided to implement Cycle Lock, because that was an idea that he's had in his like fan made MHA set for a long time. But thank you to whoever was listening to him, because I think that that's a really cool mechanic.
Yeah,
but
like we could have an hour long yap session about what Deadlock is and what Deadlock does and how Deadlock might succeed or fail at whatever it's trying to do. But one of the problems with Deadlock is that it has kind of the implicit effect, and then like that's often it, right? It just says people just stop at 10, and then that's it, or they don't, and the cards aren't starting to stop them or whatever. Cycle Lock just says, yeah, if the game has gone on long enough, and it even lets you still have influence over it, right? If you're milling yourself, you get hit by these cards. If you don't, and you like play conservatively, you build 3 pass every turn. It takes you a long time to cycle, and so you still get the agency, but you also get the progression of the game. You get the cards that power up over time, and the game just trends toward a conclusion in a way that it doesn't always.
yeah, I would absolutely love to see more cards in this design space. Maybe even cards are getting a little more ambitious with it, especially when we have so many self-mill decks be so popular. Maybe a little less so now that combined firepower isn't legal anymore, or is eroded, I should say. But I think conceptually, the idea of like we now have a little bit of a counterbalance to those kind of design spaces is going to be really good for the game. I think it's really cool. But Broberg, you picked what was one of the cards I was really tempted to choose. You want to talk a little bit about a good old fashioned forecheck card?
Yeah, I've got to talk about Titanic. God, I don't have it open. It's Titanic Capture. Is that the name of the card?
Yes.
Jesus. Yeah, so this is a like shout out to the Set One bros. If you were back here for Shadow Banishment, this is the return of the OG.
I remember that card.
Titanic Capture is at 8 difficulty, so it's a little harder, a little smaller. It's a 6 low for 6 check, but it's like kind of like we were saying. It's a full on common with a 0 low block. So if you're trying to outspeed people in low zone, you'll probably hit them because low attacks aren't real and don't matter. But if they are prepared for it, they can block them with this. Then critically, it has Blitz. After you play this Blitz, your rival reveals their hand. You choose a card revealed and exile it. So this opens the door to whatever big attack you're trying to land. This can steal an attack out of their hand limited. And in every format, this says, whatever you've got going on, it is now open to me, and the most important card you were clutching isn't there anymore. You got to pay 8 for it, and that's a real cost. Don't let anyone fool you otherwise about that, but this card's really exciting. This card's sick.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And I think something that this card reminds me of, and I think it's kind of funny, you, correct me if I'm wrong, in Atlanta, were running a 2-check attack that was kind of designed to do a similar thing, right?
Yeah, Farewell Between Friends is a 4 mid for 6 for 5 difficulty and a 2 control that peaks their hand and kind of bans one or bans your opponent from playing cards with that same name.
Yeah, that one does the Botan Spirit class thing, right? Where it's like they can't play the card. Yeah, so it was kind of the same thing, only this one permanently gets rid of it. I think this card has a ton of cool applications. I'm going to assume for the sake of argument that this card is actually Blitz, even though it's worded a little bit like a response. Because it says after you play this card,
it has to be a Blitz.
Because if we have a +0 low block that does this on block, I'm gonna scream.
Yeah, there's no universe where this is a block trigger.
So assuming that this is a Blitz, which I think is fair to assume, I think the fact that like yes, this is an 8 diff, which is very real, but it is a 4-check. So unlike the 5/2 where you're risking your turn 1 builds and things like that, you're not really risking anything with this being in the deck. The fact that this card gets to get rid of anything, an action, an attack if you want to avoid them sculpting, I think just has so much utility in a lot of decks. I do wonder, as the smiling player, as the 4-check player, apparently we're having some signatures, so I'm going to check that in just a second. But as a Smiling and Forecheck player, I do look at this card and go, oh, this card gets rid of Barrier Shield and things like that. That's really good in a deck that's going to want to be swinging big moves at people.
Yeah, it's definitely for me. I think before I'm excited about playing something constructed, I have to have a good plan to find the big damage numbers, and that hasn't always been kind of necessarily present on the fire symbol for my sense these days. But like, if I got to play this in a death deck, holy moly, dude! Greater goal, it's over.
Yeah, no, this card I think is going to have a lot of spaces where I really want to see it. Will, did you have anything you
want?
What
an insane common print, by the way.
I agree. Like, this card's really good. Like, yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. Like, and I like the Shadow Banishment comparison because it's very similar to that card, and I definitely played that card a little bit back in the day.
Absolutely.
Also, Justin, are you able to make the cards a little bit bigger on your screen?
I can. Okay. We'll just have to cover. We'll cover
once we get to ours, I'm sure people want to get
a
better look at it.
We're going to be partially blocked when we're revealing ours. Don't worry.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I already have that set up that way.
Good.
I'm a professional streamer. Don't worry. So as for the one that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about a card that's probably bad. It's probably not good, but it's so cool. I think this
good
card
words on it
is insane. The Founding Titan's Power. It's an 8/3. Fire. It's got a shift ability. It stuns 3, 0 mid for 10. It draws card, gets you a momentum, and gains health, and a +1 mid block. Somehow this card has the worst mid or block of the 3 ones we've looked at so far. But there's immediately a lot that's kind of interesting on this front side. If you're a character who could give this a ton of speed, I think the fact that this is like 10 damage and stun 3.
No, don't put speed on this.
You don't care about putting speed on this.
Oh, you just figure you're gonna let it shift?
You just want it to shift.
You play your 0 mid and you say, "Hey, I bet you didn't have it."
True.
I bet you don't have it.
This is good old trying to say you did not hold the mid block. That's absolutely fair. And even if they do block it, I will say in that regard, it's stun 3. It's going to commit 3 of your rival's cards and get value. And it's going to have drawn you card, and it's going to have gotten you a momentum, and it's going to have gotten you a little bit health if you are a little bit down. So there's a lot of stuff to like about this card on its front side. In particular, I do notice it has a symbol of a certain champ card. I'm not saying people will, but it is kind of interesting that this is a much more affordable way to staple stun 3 on another attack if you're a certain Nick Reagan. I don't think he's probably going to play an 8/3 just so when he removes it, he can stun 3, but it is on the table should he want to do that. But let's be real. The front side, it's neat, but if it was all it was doing, no one would care about it, and it would be terrible for an SR. But what it's doing on the back side, that's what has gotten everyone talking. Because its back side, spoiler alert for the manga, I guess, is Ymir Fritz, who's actually the Founding Titan. And it is first form. Remove and spend 3 momentum. You get an additional turn after this one. I believe that's what, Time Walk in Magic the Gathering? We're time walking people now? Yeah. Look. Okay.
I mean, if you get it off, you probably win unless you brick. Like, I feel like time walking in this game is a lot more devastating than it is in Magic.
Yeah, like, look, I understand what people are going to say when looking at this card. They're going to go, it's a first form, you need 3 momentum, it's a backup, so that means people can try to kill it. There are a ton of ways you can remove this from the board. And all of those
Animus
things
Shot
are true.
murders it.
Animus Shot just gets rid of it. And all of these statements are factually true. However, with all that being said, oh my god, we can have another turn. That's so cool. If someone pulls this off in a single stream game, I am going to pop off so hard. I would love to be on commentary when this actually happens. I think this card's just insanely cool. And more importantly, I am glad we're experimenting with some really high-risk, high-reward design space. Yes, that stuff can be kind of problematic when it ends up being too good. But boy, is it really cool when it pays off. And when they hit that line, I think this card's going to be really, really interesting, and cards like this are really interesting.
Dude, I cannot wait for the first game that someone plays this on stream, gets an extra turn, and then just fucking loses anyway. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, they get their extra turn and just brick.
It's gonna be
They draw
cinema.
nothing but gray. And
I will legitimately cry if I see this and they draw 6 gray. I will quit.
Imagine like they're attacking, but their shit's so anemic, like that 2 draw steps and an untap and a card pool clear aren't enough to carry it.
Like,
or like imagine like they build the decks to pop all the way off and say like, here's my Founding Titan's power. I'm gonna protect my backup. All right, time walk. On that turn after time walk. Here's my second Founding Titan's power. Get 2 more momentum. Shift it. Time walk again. 2 more momentum. Shift it. Time walk again. Attack. Doesn't kill them.
that would
imagine.
I can't. I don't want to imagine.
It's so good. It's so good.
But yes, it is. It's very funny. This is the kind of cards that I want to see more of. I think really intense build-arounds are great design spaces, like when done correctly.
Yeah, like win the game, like freaking pamphlets or whatever. Like those are cool. Like Duplers plus infinity damage. That's cool. I love that stuff. It doesn't have to be competitive to succeed as a card.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be competitive to succeed as a design. That's like why people tell themselves. This is awesome if it never wins a game.
Yes.
It's just awesome to have.
Because you're going to do it one time. This is the kind of card that I think is we talk about negative play experience a lot. I want to talk about PPE, positive play experience. This is a card that when you resolve, you're going to get the most euphoric experience ever if you win the game off of it. It's going to feel so cool when you actually make it work. Will it happen often? No. Will it happen ever? But hey, conceptually, it's really cool.
Yeah, like, will you put it in play and your opponent has to jump through hoops and kill it, and you have an interesting back and forth over multiple turns because of it? Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
I think it is really good design space, and it is an area where I am very glad backups exist. And I know backups have been kind of iffy for a lot of people, but like if this card was an asset where they get it, like it shifts into an asset, they get it in, and you have to run very specific hate to get rid of it, I might be more negative on this card because I'd be like, man, that's gonna be toxic.
Yeah.
But the fact that like now there's like a normal rate of play to try to out this card, I just think that that's like a great space for us to be designing. So whoever designed this, you know, Tim Free, Bill Stark, whichever one of you on the design team designed this, my hat's off to you. This is a cool card.
I think it's J-Ray, but I'm not sure.
It does feel like a J-Ray card, so I could totally see that.
Yeah, like I have to. I wonder if this like I wonder if they invented this before they finished inventing backups. Like we're gonna make Ymir. We're making Attack on Titan. We're gonna have Ymir. Like they have the space of a backup, and it's like Ymir's gonna be a backup who takes an extra turn. That's like a suitable application of the founding freaking Titan being on your team to help guide you along. And like, even like the sub game, like the storyline of the entire War for Parity arc in the manga in the story is preventing this moment from occurring.
Yeah. Right. And again, like we haven't talked as much about flavor, but like I think that is a really cool flavor space as well. And I think like when our cards feel like they're indicative of major moments in the story, and often that's done by doing really big, incredible things with them. Even if they're not competitive, I think that's cool. All right. I think we've buried.
Do we want to start? Do we want to continue teasing them with?
I don't know. Like, yeah. Hey, we could talk about the card Tim wanted to talk about. You know.
No. I just meant like the non-character stuff we have to reveal first.
Oh, do we go backwards?
Oh, bottom up, yeah.
Hold on.
They're the least exciting cards.
You know what?
I'm into it. Yeah, I think that's a good
idea. Kyle's
idea.
giving us permission. We're doing it, so we're gonna flip in this order. So, all right. I'm gonna start off
on the gray one or the orange one.
We're gonna start with the orange one because that's my kind of baby card.
I like that card.
Baby, we got a 4-check attack. We got a 4-check attack. I'm so happy. So
hot.
So, you might be able to get a guess of what character we have from this. You might not. I'm not gonna say anything yet. I will say this card is a very interesting space. So, let me move us where people can kind of see us while we talk about this. So, Battling the Titans, a 7 diff, 6/5. That's blitz, or 4 check. That's blitz, add 3 wall counters to your stage.
Yeah, any card in your stage. There's a mild potential for upside with this in weird ways, but mostly this is a wall counters character card.
Yeah. So, like, I think there are a few spaces. I like that you mentioned that because there's the what's the UR Foundation that
Yeah, fortify walls.
Fortify walls. If you're
Yep.
like really worried about defense, you could throw these 3 on a fortify walls, and you've got at any point you needed an extra -3 speed to deal with an opponent's stuff, and like that could be cool in anyone. I look at this card. I think people like. There's a lot of value in any of the 4-check character or any of the wall counter characters. But there's one in particular that I don't think seen a lot of play before that this card I think is really cool in, and that's Hans. Hans, for those who don't remember, he gets +1 damage for every wall count, or is it every 2
It's
wall
every
counters?
other,
Every
I think.
pair.
Every
Yeah.
pair of wall counters. So this card says off the bat, permanently +1.5 damage for your Hans character. And Hans has always had an issue of like your opponent doesn't block you, and your opponent's running fast moves, so you can't block them very well, and so all your stuff's coming in for printed. This now immediately makes stuff harder to answer in that character.
Yeah, that's actually so cool. Yeah, that's the 7 up to a 7 mid 12. Like
Yeah.
Right.
7 mid 12 is real numbers for
Yeah.
anybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be really cool in that character specifically. I think in other characters it still has a lot of value. It is a free build off of Irwin if you want to get that ball rolling. It is free stats in Krista. I could see a world, especially if we get more like Order and Chaos 4-checks that are really good, where like a 4-check Krista that's using this to kind of set up her abilities to put 6/6s on her deck could see a lot of viability. Like, I think there's just a lot of interesting spaces where 3 wall counters are just doing a lot for a lot of our characters. Plus, it might be doing something for a character we'll be revealing in a little bit.
Yeah, for me, I think that Hans like really solves the problems of this card for me a bit because ultimately like 7 is a high price, and I think it constructed like this is ultimately a common. I think that I see this as a common. I see this next to Beast Titan attacks, and I can't help but think of Monkey Flip. You know, it's on a different symbol, so like a lot of these are going to be incomparable that way. But you know, this is a mid zone, mid block. Like this has some drawbacks, and it's in like 7 difficulty. These add up so fast, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
at Worlds, we saw Crystal Ends in the finals, playing a strings with Walk the Dogs, but you know, you can draw as many cards as you want, but then you actually have to play those cards on progressive difficulty. That adds up. That keeps adding up. You're paying +4 price on top of that stuff. Like it's just not feasible to play these on 11s ever. Like nobody can do that. Even if you have a super deadlock stage, 11 is too much to pay for a card. You have to be able to fight over that progressively somehow if you're going to be stringing with these. But we'll talk about more about that maybe a little later today.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that like in most of the characters is going to struggle because of its lower stats. I like it. It has me wanting to like experiment with a Hans deck though, because I think that character does a lot.
And like that could be like the sickest like pauper AOT spotlight deck, right? Like
yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So cohesive and so like there's a clear line here. Like there's clearly good cards that are building to something, and if that guy can just like play the game with people, that's such an insanely perfect beginner deck.
Absolutely. I also think we absolutely should talk about like at another time how like characters like Hans with this card, it allows things like Spotlight to really shine because we can really like take these different decks and really make them highlight. That's a conversation for another day, but I do like that direction that like, hey, yeah, maybe in Standard you're not going to want to play Hans with this character, but in Spotlight, I'm down to see what this card's going to do.
Yeah, and like the dream of every bad character is like you could have the 1 week of the metagame where like everyone's blocking so much and playing so many speed resets on both sides of the ball, or like so much like set to 0 speed that just like Hans saying, yeah, here's my 6 mid for 12, I'm gonna reset it back to 6 if you barrier shield it.
Absolutely.
Struggle, and like that's like somehow the line. Like
right.
It's imaginable. It could happen.
Absolutely. But we don't just have an attack to show off. We also got a foundation, Visions of the Survey Course. It is a 2-diff, 2 low block with that checks a 5. Response: when you play this card, you get a wall counter to any card in your stage. Again, we kind of talked about you can put it on like a fortify walls, but also put it on your character. But then also flip. This attack gets either -2 speed, or -2 damage. Um, I think this card's really cool for its flexibility. Like, I was thinking a lot. I was thinking about this card and like, where does this card find a home? Um, there are cards currently like Toughest Punk in Junior High, cards like that do -3 damage on a flip. This is one less damage, but it now has additional flexibility where it's also getting you -2 speed. And it's also got a decent low block, which is often harder to come by than a lot of other cards in this game.
Yeah, I love this as like this is a card you can like put 4 in your deck, and you're saying I'm a walk in our deck. I have 4 Visions of Survey card in my box. We're always going to play 4 of this, and it's never going to be bad. It's going to be a part of the landscape that is going to be here. This is always pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're trying to defend yourself in any way, 2 more health. Hey, you're living a little longer. -2 speed, like we've seen plenty of flip -3, -2 speed, -3 speed kind of cards. Like cards that are like people put in their decks solely to say flip -3 speed, and this is just a little bit less efficient, and you get the walk counter for your character.
And you get the flexibility of choosing which direction you want to go.
Yes. Which it's hard to overstate just how much that's worth. Like so many games are won and lost by margins that small.
Absolutely.
Right. I think this card is super solid in like any of the wall characters.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think in the wall characters you play it no matter what, just because again it gets you that counter. And the fact that it has a good effect, whereas like I think a lot of the wall counter characters were playing that like one diff that just gets you a wall counter and does nothing else. This one has additional utility, and now you can pair those up. Again, we talked about a certain character that was struggling to get wall counters, but really pays off when he does. He's now going to have a large amount of quick get wall counters that he can start using for his stuff, and I think that that's really great. Do we go ahead and show them now, though?
Yes.
I think that was the time.
They've waited. It's been.
But they're starting to riot, and that's when it's most fun.
Right. You're just deflecting from the Birch misspellings in the chat right now.
That's true. Actually, every time they spell my name wrong, I'm adding 30 seconds. No.
We're going back to talk about Ymir again?
Yo, hold on. All right,
let's talk about Tim's card.
Yo, wait, hold on. I can pull it up. No, okay. So.
Oh, Kyle's out here just egging us on, too.
I know. Kyle wants me to torture him. But no. You guys have probably guessed the character. We got the wall counter character, and not just any wall character. It's Hanji Zo, the 14th commander of the Survey Corps. Now, I unfortunately am a normie who doesn't watch enough anime, so Brober, can you explain to us where this character is at this point in the story?
Yeah, so after the events of the Battle of Shigansha, the Return to Shigansha arc in the manga, the Survey Corps loses Erwin Smith in his final charge against the Beast Titan. And Hanji succeeds him as the new commander of the Survey Corps. So the 14th commander of the Survey Corps here. They represents the continuity of command of the Survey Corps with the order symbol here, but then keeps the life symbol that's been kind of continuous from Hanji Zoe in set 1 through 4 eyes in set 2, and now here 3 eyes with the eye patch from the eye loss and Bertholt's attack during Return to Shigansha. Anyway, yeah, and it's kind of representing their arc in the War for Parity arc, and the end of the story here is really the struggles of being the commander of the Survey Corps, of marshaling the troops and struggling with what to do in the harsh and uncertain world that all the LDNs find themselves in, that our heroes find themselves in. And yeah, I think the mechanics of this represent this. We have the wall counter theme continuing on with Erwin, or from set 1's Erwin anyway. Who wants to read off this text, I guess?
I can read off the text unless Will wants to.
I can. I haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Will.
So yeah, this character is a 723 with the life and order symbols. Static ability, at the start of your turn, add 1 wall counter to this card. Then add 1 wall counter to this card for every 4 cards in your stage with different names. Then they have the enhance of remove 3 wall counters, choose 1 card in your card pool. It does not count towards progressive difficulty this turn. This character is very coda coded. Like from set 3, like the character who wants to just throw a whole bunch of attacks at you, except this time we're a 7-hander.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, let's go and talk a little bit about what an average play line is going to look like for this. So notably, this is a static, which means no matter what, you start your first turn of the game with 1 counter. And this is what character is going to be running those thin numbers, so let's keep that in mind. If you get a 3 build, your character counts as one of the 4 cards in your stage. So if you get a 3 build, start of your next turn, you're going to have 3 counters. You can already start doing the choosing the 1 card in your card pool ability once. But really, that's not what this character's probably going to do. This character's probably not going to want to just spam that ability. What I think she's going to want to do is play tight defense. Play a lot of defensive life cards that do good at stage, preferably repeatable ones, because I will say, in case anyone doesn't know, because this is a ruling we had to look up, face downs do not count as having a name, thus they don't count as having different names. So she probably wants repeatable face up ones, but she uses those repeatable abilities. She uses some good breaker and stuff like that. And then she is going to get 8, 9, 10 wall counters, and then just string the hell out of people. Being able to basically play her first 3 or 4 cards at 0 progressive. Plus, there will be certain ones we'll get to in a moment that will provide cards that will provide a bunch of additional utility for her.
Yeah, I was excited to tell when I saw this character because, let's review some of the characters I played at Premier events recently. So we played Honey's Way 4 Eyes, we played Urban Smith, Commander of the Survey Corps, and we played Pony. 7 hand size, pays 3 counters to clear a progressive difficulty, wall counters for Wall Maria's Might. I gotta point out. And then it's Hanji. Oh my god.
Wait, but Broberg, you never did well with any of those characters. 7-handers don't do well.
Yeah, 7-handers suck, dude. They're just the worst.
No, I think a lot of people are going to look at this character and think this character's bad. I've already seen people in chat go, this character is stinky. And look, I'll be an honest person. That was my gut instinct. But if you think that, it's probably because you're a more aggressive player. Because a more aggressive player goes, I'm not using my enhance ability early on. How are we going to actually do it? But I think Tim describes it perfectly right here. The character has the text, we will win the game eventually. You will eventually have so many wall counters that you can play 7 attacks on 0 progressive. What are they going to do to stop you? As long as we can find that defensive line.
And we are on 2 of the best defensive symbols in the game right now.
On 2 of the best defensive symbols in the game to do that. We're going to get to do a ton of stuff with this character. But I think there are some specific utility pieces that are going to make this character shine even more. So the first one, let me make sure I pull up the right one right here. Here we go. The one everyone knows. You love it, you hate it, it exists. Wall Maria's Might. Any character who can get a lot of counters abuses the hell out of this card. In turn 2, this card becomes Pot of Greed. Because you'll have 3 wall counters at the start of the turn. You'll play this, you'll add a 4th, you'll draw 2. If you've been using any of the foundations or abilities that give extra cards to your character, or extra wall counters to your character, this can easily on turn 2 become a draw 3 or maybe even a draw 4. And then of course when we get to the really late game where we got that like 10 or 12 counters, we're going to be looking at what? Draw 5, draw 6. We're going to be a 13-hander opening this card who's going to play a bunch of things at 0 progressive.
Yeah, and that's the thing that gets me with Hanji is that you get that 15 wall counter turn. You draw your 6 cards. Sure, the majority of them are not going to be attacks because that's the law's probability, right?
Right.
You have such a huge grip. You can actually do 2 things with it even. You can just double down on building a bigger stage, put the wall 10 feet taller, and then next turn it's going to pay you back with even more wall counters and even more of a cascading advantage. Or you can say, well, this is the hand that has an unusual number of attacks, and none of them are going to count on progressive difficulty. Here's a 5 diff, here's a 5 diff, here's a 5 diff, here's a 5 diff, until the cows come home, or until your opponent's life total hits 0.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you start drawing these in like succession with one another, or you start fishing ways to get these in succession with one another, you're going to get to start using, like we're going to do the Krista gameplay of we're going to start discarding cards with don't do this, get us extra stun, we're going to commit out their board, we're going to make you start facing some of these cards head on. I think that this card immediately is really, really cool. But you have to find it. So the question is there any cards that currently exist that will help us find it? And thankfully, I think there's one that when we were looking, looked really cool. I think this character is a sick Tasty Riff character. Most people who have played with Tasty Riff think of this as the applause counters thing. That you start off, you build a 0, you get some applause counters if it pokes, then you can later on build like a 1 or a 2 diff or whatever from the applause counters you get. But That's not what Tasty Riff says. Tasty Riff says you pick a counter of one type on your character and you build equal to half of that number of counters rounded up. Meaning, no matter what, if we got a 3 build, we get to build a 2 diff immediately. If we've played the game long enough, we get to those late stage cards. Imagine you got 9 wall counters on your character. You're going to play that Tasty Riff. Oh, I'm going to go to my discard. I'm going to pick up a 5 diff move. Oh, what? This Wall Maria's Might? Going to make this card not count towards progressive difficulty. I'm going to play Wall Maria's Might. I'm going to draw a ton of cards. I'm going to kill you.
We're think keep on going.
I think Tasty Riff, we're going to be the biggest shredders in the universe with this card. I'm so excited to see these kind of put together. And then, you're going to pick up that Wall Maria's Might. You're going to play it. You're going to draw into another Tasty Riff. You're just going to keep going and going and going. If you are I like to play a lot of cards character or person, I think this is going to go great. So, I know I'm kind of gushing a little bit. What are your guys' thoughts overall about where this character is going to kind of land in the game?
Yeah, I think it's not going to be an every metagame kind of staple character. I think that, like, frankly, it doesn't have the big splashy impact on your like base rate, like that's not die on turn 2 kind of stuff for the metagame we have some of these days. But if you pick your right spots, if you are willing to just defend and take your lumps sometimes on those games and find the metagames where you can just slug out a long one, there's so much potential here, and you get to do so much. You have the most explosive turns, I think, in the format. Almost like the other characters that mitigate progressive difficulty just don't have these symbols, and a lot of the Titan cards just don't have this kind of access to difficulty mitigation. You just have to pay full price over and over for your cards. You play 2 attack strings until it's like super deadlock time, and Hanji just gets to play a whole different game than them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think this character, like, I don't think it's gonna be for everyone. Very obviously, like, it's a 7-hander that doesn't put stats on face, so you have to find your damage. You have to find your defense in other places. Like I said, good defensive symbols, so it shouldn't be that hard. But not many people are going to gravitate to this. However, I think someone who is very dedicated to this type of character, much like Koji Koda was, I think someone's going to gravitate to this character, do really well with it, and yeah.
I look at this character and I think one thing. I want George Zhang to get his hands on this character.
Yeah, George played a Mothra deck that had 4 copies of another card that I think might be a very clutch piece of the Hanji puzzle, which is just research the answer. You have +1 hand size if you have a big stage of diverse pieces.
Yeah.
And that was on the Earth symbol. The Earth symbol has a lot of tools that aren't necessarily around for the life symbol and order symbols in my perception of them right now. But, you know, referee, jury, ultra regen type stuff. And also just Mothra is a crazy ability that is very different than what Hanji's got going on here. But if there's like the right space for a deck that is playing 41 of Foundations or whatever.
Right.
100%. I think, like, if you're that kind of player, the kind of player who wants to live forever, build diverse boards, use those diverse boards to, like, find the line where there is a 0 mathematical % chance your opponent can survive, and wait until you get there and then do it, I think that this will be the character for you. Now, I will say in that regard, I think this will be one of the highest skill testing characters in the set that we've seen so far, in terms of being really, really good, but being hard to play correctly. Because unlike Mothra, to give that analogy, Mothra had the benefit of like a really good speed hate on face. You are relying purely on the ability to use the cards that you have access to in your stage and in your hand to its fullest extent.
In some fields, if you have the right confluence of factors, Hanji does have a defensive ability. It's kind of subtle.
Sure.
But if you play against a pony who's playing 8 attack strings, and you're playing a mid-long game with Hanji, you got your 10 wall counters built up, and they're attacking you 8 times. If you block 4 times in a turn, this is worth 10 foundations.
Right.
It's worth 6 after 4 blocks. Right? Because you can just take your first block out of progressive difficulty. Now that's -1 speed for every subsequent block. Take your second block out of progressive difficulty. That's -1 speed for every subsequent block. That's not nothing.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
It's not much, but it's not
But
enough.
it's something. It will matter. And it will matter, like, that again is where this is skill testing, because you will have to be the kind of player who can look at it and identify that with the number of attacks my opponent is probably going to play this turn, I will get more value getting -1 speed that I have to decide on now for all those moves than saving those 3 counters to try to crack back on the next turn. Like, I think there are just so many areas where you could mess up with this character, but if you thread that needle, I think someone who threads that needle will be the coolest player to watch in Top Cut, because they will show such a smart defensive understanding of the game.
It won't be me. I'm an idiot.
Hey, it won't be. I play Smiling Tide. It won't be me.
I got one more shout out for Hanji, which is you pointed out that your face counts as your first distinct card, right? Every 4 cards you receive different names. Your backups and assets also count towards this. So there can be some spots where Soup, where Badgie, where Shift attacks can help add up to this wall counter and kind of make a dynamic back and forth game play pattern, I think.
I think it's actually really cool that you mentioned that, because I think she can afford to play like a higher percentage of things like Item Box and cards like that on her symbol, because when she goes for her crackback turn, if she's got enough counters, she's never committing more than 1 or 2 foundations, unless she checks the 2, on a given attack. So she's going to be able to kill with maybe only 7 or 8 foundations in stage, but like a good chunk of strong defensive assets to capitalize off of. So I think that is definitely a really cool play space for her. All right. So that's our reveal. But that's not all we got today, chat. We do have something else we want to talk about, which is we've had a lot of webcam events the past 2 weeks because we missed out on last week. So we wanted to take some time and highlight what we thought were some of the coolest decks from these weekends.
Go ahead and recount what the 3 events were, just for everyone.
Absolutely. So the first event that happened, I believe it was not this last weekend, but the weekend before, was the David Toombs webcam community event. The first one of, I don't know if he's doing 4 again this season, but however many he does, that will lead to usually a playoffs and all of that. At least that was the structure last year. I don't know the same structure this year, but it gets an opportunity for people to get cash prizes and things like that. So it's usually an opportunity for a lot of fun. He's doing 4 no playoffs. Thank you. So it was an opportunity for people to kind of test their luck. It's really cool because it's one of the few opportunities where international and national players get to play against each other. We did get to see some EU representation, which we might talk a little bit about when we get into the decks. Beyond that, we had the Boar's Hat Gaming Case event. Now, normally we wouldn't shout out a locals event, but Chris Smith, aka Brody One, has done a ton of work marketing each of these case events he does, to the point where some really high-level players like Travis Tangeman, Tam Cardwell, even ones you don't get to see play often like Barrett Bryant, wound up making an appearance. And so it ended up being a really competitive event. And then finally, we had the single elimination Ace Arena event. That was just a quick Saturday, or was it Sunday? I believe it was Sunday activity.
It was Sunday, yeah.
Where people got a chance to fight for $50 to $100, just make a little bit of cash off everyone else who jumped in the race. But all 3 were events that had enough on the line where people were taking a little bit more serious decks, trying some more serious stuff out. So we thought it'd be great to highlight some of the meta evolutions that we have seen. Will, would you like to start us off with the deck that you decided you were going to want to talk about?
Sure. So the deck I decided to talk about was Cameron Cardwell's Beast Titan deck. It looks like he came in 4th place at the case event. I just wanted to highlight this because like people poo-pooed on this character when it was revealed, and I read this character and thought, if we get good backups or like a competent player playing this character is nutty. Like, this character draws so many cards, and he also has the text that one of the texts that made Younger Toguro so good, which is build the first card that you played in the turn. So I just wanted to put a shout out here to all these strong 4-check cards.
Mhm.
Obviously a nod to the cast. Also, the card that I love to hate, that is the Beast Titans Rock Barrage.
Ooh,
Because that card is terrible when it's not good, and when it is good, it is an asshole.
You
absolutely.
don't like back alley Beastmaker,
I don't
whatever the
like
hell we're
getting
gonna call this.
I don't like getting stun 3'd and they get to build one. No, I don't.
You don't like stun three, they get to build one, and they get to choose what one of the three are? That all
Yeah,
sounds great to me.
yeah. I mean, it's all good when I
And
get to do it.
you draw a card, and you can probably build it. Yeah,
Yeah,
buddy.
no, no.
And you don't your rival doesn't get a chance to do anything in between unless they have very specific things because they're all blitz abilities.
I love Blitz.
I hmm. I hate multiple blitz on one card.
We're
This
staying
card makes me mad.
we're staying all, brand safe for this week because we got the dice reveals. So, strictly Blitz is good
Oh,
today.
I will go to bat for Blitz. I love this card. This shit's great.
No, I actually
like,
ironically do think
like I
that
said,
this
I just
card's
don't
really
like
cool.
multiple blitz all on one card.
I'm trying
I
not
don't
to
hate blitz, but
I'm trying not to
Anyway,
derail about how this should all
I,
be set up as a single Blitz
I,
ability
I
because
want to shout out my personal thing. I opened a Beast Time Chrome set one, and I was not able to convince myself to ever play it. And I love that Tam is like giving me the blueprint. I want to shout out three things in this deck. Two of them are commons from Critical Role, uncommons actually. Knight's Rest and Nymph's Invitation are such insanely huge deals for this character.
oh yeah.
Knight's Rest just says tap a backup to untap this.
Mhm.
That's so insanely huge. Just that you can take your one diff crappers, your shift attacks that aren't doing anything,
Mhm.
and use them to pass a check. It's crazy.
And then Nymphs is just free damage at that point as well.
Nymphs is so much more than free damage. Nymphs is sacrifice one
Fair.
backup, period. Holy
Yeah.
crap, that's so good for the B side. That's draw
Sure.
a card.
Oh, of course, of course. But I mean, like in general, you get to commit your backup to ready your Night's Rest, and then you get to sack it to Nymphs, since it's already committed, and now you get extra damage on your move.
The,
I
the
hadn't
Those
thought
cards
schnastiest
about
together
it.
is so good.
I hadn't thought
the,
about that in Beast Time. This just says +3 damage and draw a
Oh
card.
yeah,
That's so
yeah,
good.
it's very good.
the schnastiest thing is you put your opponent to 4 with chip damage with rock barrages and everything. And you say pass turn, and they attack you, and you say I'll enhance with Nymph's Invitation on your attack. Kill my backup, respond death rattle.
Hmm.
I love this. No, you've sold me. Like I already thought this deck was cool. You've really sold me. This is so sick. And like I do want to talk a little bit about like conceptually because I know Tam has put a lot of work into this deck. And
I've
one
seen
of the
him
things,
play it online a lot.
yeah, one of the things I love about where we are right now at Universes, and now we're having a little bit more time between sets, is we're really getting to see people go back to some of these characters and really figure out what makes them tick and what makes them really cool and how we can take advantage of them. I think Beast Titan is a great example of seeing this sort of innovation. I think there are other really good cards that we've seen that I don't think people have talked enough about. I think Titan Under Orders is a
I was about to
nuts
talk about that too. Yeah,
life card. Yeah, this
card's
card
so good.
just straight up is twice -3. It's the defense on Nod's Flask. If you're in a deck that can afford a higher percentage of 3 checks, this card immediately becomes a strong thing to consider.
Also, the important part about this card is that losing 3 stamina is not part of the cost. You can be at 1 stamina left on this card and give something -3 damage all you want. I learned that the hard way when I played against my friend, or my local who was playing Zeke, who had this card in play, and I attacked it with Godzilla. I got, he DR'd it down enough to deal 5 damage. It didn't pop. I was like, all right, I'm safe. And then next turn, he gave my attack -3, and I got mad.
Yeah,
Because I did not read that card properly.
I think that this card is really sick. I think this whole list is really sick. It really shows
absolutely.
someone who's taken time, really thought about what is going to be unique about this character. And before we move on, I do want to kind of extend this to more broad strokes, talking about what the top cut looked like, because I think we did see a lot of interesting stuff from the Hex case event. While some of the stuff's expected, we've seen a few Devil Jins show up. We've seen quite a few Nyx and Tarians show up. I think it's cool to see another King Ghidorah Void. This is one of the few this is one of the few times where we can still use combined firepower effectively. I think that's really cool. Barrett showing up, not able to play very often, and still showing the value that Pony brings to the table. I think when cards get hit and rotate, players are way too quick to be like, oh, this is bad now. And I myself am guilty of it. So the fact that someone was like, hey, this character's still probably really good without any means necessary, I think's great. I think it's really cool to see. And
Yeah,
then
and
we
Barrett's been like what's the word I'm looking for? Polishing this wheel.
yeah,
That's not the metaphor. Anyway, he's been on this kick for a long time. He's been an air pony enthusiast.
absolutely. And you see it, like, again, this is a really well thought out list. You can usually tell when a deck has a lot of 1, 2s, and 3-ofs in their attack lineup. That is someone who spent a long time sculpting what is the proper ratio of all these attacks. We're not just slamming 4 of our best 5 and calling it a day. And then, of course, we have Travis, who showed up with the last opportunity to play Combined Firepower in Rodon, showed that that was not a fluke at Denver, and that Rodon is, in fact, a crazy character, which is not anyone's surprise. It'll be very interesting to see if that character continues to be prevalent without Firepower. But, with that in mind, Broberg, what did you decide to talk about?
Yeah, I actually wanted to yap about Barrett's pony deck.
Oh, absolutely.
Because,
Let's talk about it. Let's talk more.
yeah, so it's an air symbol pony deck. The big trade off, the thing that got everyone on the earth symbol, I think, was ultimately not just the +5 mid block, but the +5 mid block that I'm blanking on the name of already when you just said it 5 minutes ago. Another bing bong lets you discard a card and draw it back, and also kind of the combination of that new trading method, both rotated. But yeah, this is Pony. It gets a lot of the same attune goodies, which now adds Science Bros as well on top of everything else. It gets the same Electric Moss that we liked in the Earth deck. Gets the same Beast Summonings, and then adds a variety of other interesting things. Lunacy Harris gets to be a potentially very cheap 7 damage throw. It gets a bunch of deck view stuff that rewards you for clearing a card pool one way or another. It's like Best Ever Chimera Kraken, which has been touted occasionally as like the best card in the game, which I think is goofy, but it's certainly a good card. And then just a variety of a lot of spam and a lot of 3x of incompatible quirks is kind of a standout, surprising one that lets you get a big stage and then catch that stage into a even bigger attack string, pay for all the stuff you can draw into.
I think incompatible is a really big one here because one of the things that Pony has in those like early to mid games, if she's got like 6 foundations, she commits 2 every time she checks an attack at +1 progressive. She gets too many of those, she might have to stop her turn early. Here we go, all right, now every time we commit 2, we're actually only committing 1 because we're just going to ready up the other one.
Yeah, and it's a nice potential long game advantage where you can set up the Science Bros in here is I think in large part just to trigger and draw an extra card whenever you find a card like Wish Hard.
Yeah.
But certainly in some of these long games, you get Science Bros in play as well as the incompatible quirks. Now that's +1 speed, +1 damage every time you're untapping your foundation on your all-in kill turn. That's really good.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to highlight a card that we haven't seen a ton lately. I'm glad to see Airy Smiles back in a top cut list. I think this action has always been really good. I think it has a lot of versatility. But it's just been on symbols that either haven't seen a ton of competitive play in the last few sets, or often it's like a Nick Reagan all, where we're not ever going to try to block, we're just going to try to kill them. It was at Aerodon at Worlds. Even still, I'm glad to see it kind of like show up again in such a high ranking position.
Yeah, and it's 2 main and then 2 more sides. So he's really committed to this. Pony gets to do a great job with it where she can pay 3 counters to make your attack eventually turns to a 0 every zone block with the 1 horn counter for -2 speed, 1 horn counter change the zone. So block that low attack, block that walk the dog and check a 5 and you're Gucci.
Absolutely. I just think that this is a really cool list. I'm glad that you highlighted it. I think, and also like I want to make sure in case anybody in chat is not aware of the player. Barrett Bryant is a very well-known player in the game. He mostly does commentary nowadays, so if you watch the live streams, you've probably seen him show up. But since he does so much commentary, he doesn't really get to play very often, and it's cool to show that he still got it as a player. He's still, like, when he gets to show up, he's still going to knock it out of the park. He only wins.
He only wins nationals. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm really glad to see this make it. Look him up in UVS Ultra. Absolutely. All right. Before we get into the list that I want to talk about, which I'm sure a lot of people know what my list is going to be, I want to talk a little bit broad strokes about what the webcam event had. Because while we didn't pick out one specifically from one of us three, I think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. First of all, I want to highlight a specific player here. I want to highlight Kai. We're going to probably talk more about Gavin's Devil Jin list and just kind of briefly touch on it. But it's really cool to see an international player get to show up and do very well at these webcam events. For those of you who don't know, Kai is, I think, like 13 years old or something like that. He is a young EU player. He's the child that beats me at EU Nationals that I will never get to live down. But it's really cool to see like him show up to these webcam events, him do well at these webcam events, because I think he's topped another, like one of the Ace Arenas or something like that as well previously with Ymir. So I think this is just really cool to get this. And it was shocking in this webcam circuit that we got not one, but two Chaos Devil Jins showing up in top 8.
Yeah, there's been I've seen another couple of people talk about recently that Attack on Titan cards are too simple and they're too boring. They're not interesting enough to build around or to play with. Devil Jin has more words than I know what to do with. I played the second locals once. I missed 5 lines I missed like 5 pieces of how this card works. The cyclomatic complexity was too much. I didn't realize I could draw a card off that top ability. I didn't realize I could rezone my rival's attacks with the bottom ability. And the first time anyone plays with this, you need to carefully walk them through precisely the sequence of making a control check and how that response plays into that.
Right.
Yeah. No. Okay. I'm trying to be brand safe today. We got the cool reveals. Thank you, UVS Games. I don't like the design of Devil Jin. I think he is really cool when you're explained how he works, and I hate reading this card with every fiber of my being. The fact that
he is a test of your capacity for mental load.
Yeah,
and that's okay. Once you learn it, it gets easier with repetition, right?
Yeah, and it's not just that like he's a lot to read, but that's also true. The fact that he's got this weird ruling thing that isn't really how we play the game intuitively, where like when you check the attack you're currently playing does not count as one of the attacks in your card pool because it's technically in like the transit zone.
It's in between space, yeah.
Yeah, it's in between space.
It's on its way. It's on a bus.
But like the way that everyone is on-ramped for this game and everyone is shown this game, almost everyone is shown with, okay, you put a card in your card pool, you look how many are before it, you make the check, and then you commit foundations based on how many you have to commit. But they're shown as if that attack is in your card pool. So the fact that you have to explain to a newer player that like, hey guys, this doesn't actually it isn't actually in the card pool, so it doesn't count as one of your checks. I think 90% of players read this wrong on first read, and I still see like newer players likely to mess this card up. The deck's really cool. Gavin did great with it. I think it's one of the few decks that really abuses Aerial Goblin Bolt. I just hate the design space of this card.
Yeah, and Aerial Goblin Bolt, let's be honest, is probably the reason why this character has become a lot more mainstream.
So I mean, it's becoming mainstream because someone is succeeding with it and showing people what this character has in range, or like what they have in store. Like ladding this up on your own is very challenging.
Yes,
like you have to play a lot of bad cards. To take some discourse lately, right? You have to conceptualize what camouflage counter gets to do for this character.
Yes,
it's a lot. It's everything.
Oh yeah.
You have to do the camouflage counters. You have to realize that we can play a lot of these cards with bad stats. I mean, a 3/3 is not exactly fantastic because we're doing so much with those stats, and when they're in the card pool, they're doing so much. So, like, I think as Gavin's saying in the chat, like, this deck was 6 iterations deep, and if you read it, it feels like a 6 iterations deep deck. I still think there's probably innovation space for it to go. The fact that it's deciding to run really interesting cards like Mimicry tell me that like he's explored a lot of angles. I'll be interested to see if those develop as time goes on. But I think like it was really cool to see that hit this kind of top 8 because I think it is a very interesting deck.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
But we have got one more deck to talk about.
All right, we have like max like 20 minutes is like really pushing it for the show, so
yeah. So I'm gonna be talking for an hour, guys. Sorry.
All right, then it just becomes the Justin podcast after that. I'm out.
Hold on a second. Let me sign in real quick, and I gotta pull off the stream while I sign in because I'm just gonna pull up my list for this. Where is it? Here we go. Do that.
Now, chat's saying Bearded Titan is better than the Smiling Titan. True or false?
That's a tough call. You know, Bearded Titan does have 36 health.
He does have 36 health.
And he can be on any one symbol. Ooh.
It's real good. There are some good symbols.
All right. So
some of my favorite characters have symbols.
Guys.
Before you get started, just shout out to David for his four check Reiner 1 deck. That deck was also cool.
Okay. Unironically, I actually want to touch on that card that deck before I spend time yapping on this one. David's 4-check Reiner deck is the coolest iteration of Reiner I've ever seen.
Reiner 1 specifically.
Reiner 1, yes. The fact that we are playing a Reiner 1 list that is not either trying to debuild or play this really long control game, but instead taking advantage of the offensive ability of Knockdown Blow and how Female Titan Attacks picks it back up, and combining that with sacrificing our own stage for really good damage reduction, I think is insanely cool. If my list wasn't here and I wasn't going to be yapping about this list, I would be yapping about the Reiner 1 list. And it did do something that I really wanted, which is see people explore Knockdown Blow more. Because I think in AOT 1, Knockdown Blow is probably the best attack that hasn't seen enough experimentation, in my opinion. I think giving a shift attack +3 to their next check and 3 damage is just so good. So, yes, David's deck's really cool. And yes, I got to win more money off of David, and that's the other important thing from this whole conversation. In fact, I was kind of worried about his deck going in. But y'all, Smiling Titan's it. Smiling Titan's got the sauce. Smiling Titan, I swear to God, is more meta than people think she is. And no one wants me to be right, because if Smiling Titan is relevant again, people are going to be so upset. But
my local says that you're welcome for reigniting your life.
I know. Thank you so much. It is so good. No. Oh my God. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about where Smiling Titan went, where she got pulled away, and why she's relevant now. So Smiling Titan, for those of you who are not aware, received an errata. Her errata took her from plus speed and plus damage to plus speed or plus damage. Everything else about her is the same. And when that happened, everyone went, well, she's bad now. She's a bad character. She could never top a tournament again. And I was one of those people. As someone who got 3rd place with her at Atlanta, I was convinced that she was never going to be able to kill higher health characters before they blow her out. And when it came to characters that are like Rodon and Seven Hairs, things like that, they're just going to be able to block her stuff. So I was convinced she was bad. So what changed for me? Well, there were a few changes here. Change number 1. We got an incredible 9-3 in AOT2. For those of you who are not aware, this 9-3 Colossus Titan's Destructive Power is a 9 diff plus 0 mid block, 7 mid for 13 that says, Blitz, your rival pops 1, commits 1, and flips a ready. So, as a result, this card immediately can answer upwards of 3 foundations, and at least consistently answers 2 foundations your opponent may have, because you're stunning them out 1. You are flipping usually one of them, which can often be a defensive if they only have defense left up. And if they were ready on all their foundations, you blew up another foundation, which gave you another speed, which means this card's anywhere from 8, 9, or more speed, depending on what their board was looking like already. And it's swinging for 13 damage. So we give it the speed, it becomes a 12 mid for 13. That's old Smiling Titan stats. And then it shifts into a foundation that says After your unblocked attack deals damage to a character, your rival loses 2 health. What that says is, when we make our stuff really fast and it doesn't get blocked, we're almost old Smiling Titan again. We burn for additional 2 more, that's like getting 2 more damage. So now we're plus 4 speed, plus 2 damage instead of plus 4 speed, plus 4 damage. That is a fine place to be in. And it gave us another foundation so we could string longer. Everything about this card already made me want to consider Smiling throughout AOT2's lifespan. The reason I didn't was, one, because I made the mistake of trying to build her on like D build and things like that, and I really don't think that's where she was. But also because she didn't have good ways to answer opponents' stuff trying to deal with her board. What changed there was 2 cards in the release of Heroes of Exandria. The first one, Tranquility of Death, which is at the start of your combat phase, each player seals 1 rival non-character card. Now this card's already kind of weird. I'm curious if one of you guys know the ruling on this. How does the declaring work on this card? Do you declare and then your rival declares? How do you both declare at the same time?
I think we have simultaneous actions now, so I think you would just like choose if you want to be precise about it, you choose in secret. You like write down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, for speed, I just always declared first because most of the time it was pretty obvious. If you are really min-maxing this character, you might want to figure out a way you both can declare at the same time, and just be prepared to do that, because like there are times that can matter, especially when you've got 2 or 3 of these out and your opponent is gonna make their decision based on what you hit on them.
This card being unique is silly. Not being unique, I mean.
Yeah, I know. When you get 2 of these out, it pretty much just says at the start of your combat phase, seal 1 rival non-character card, because they almost always have to hit your other one.
Right.
So this card just ends up doing a lot for us. And we don't play hardly any offensive foundations. They can hit a league invitation, which is decent. But generally, if I'm doing that ability, it's because sealing a non-character card is better than committing a foundation. They could hit the league interview, which gives us 1 less foundation. Oh no. Maybe they hit the weapon clash so we can't build, or the button collector or display of might so we can't draw. Those are all fine hits. But most of our high value foundations are in our resets and our defense. So for all of those, it doesn't matter if they seal on us. We're not using it that turn anyways. So this card just did a ton. In addition, we got access to Star Razor. Star Razor is an asset that just says commit seal 1 rival foundation. It's free. You get to do it. No cost. You hit whatever reset they're trying to do on you. So you get additional copies of Tranquility, basically. In addition, if you don't need to use it for that ability, or you don't want to seal one of their offensive pieces on their turn, when they poke you, you can commit it as a response. If you've taken 5 or more damage, tell them you either burn for 6 or have to play a non-attack card next. Which means unless they're confident they're killing you, they're either taking a huge gamble by burning for 6, which will make us killing them way, way, way easier, or they have to start building out. Either direction, this card feels really good. So as a result, between these 2 cards, we got so much stage control, plus the already established league invitations, that foundational defense, like your opponent's invincible bodies, like your opponent's last second rescues, feel like they don't really matter as much anymore. We just have so much that can handle that. And then I think that's basically everything in terms of new cards. We do get to kind of play some stuff, though, I wasn't playing before, but get some newfound utility. Beast Titan's Call feels really good. It's an EX 3-speed move. We can put the damage on and then make it fast if we've poked them before. But also, it says 8 damage. The coolest thing about this is your opponent has to treat it like it's 10 damage. And the reason why is because if you start milling and you hit a destructive power, you can build it and immediately burn them for 2. So you just get some free additional damage. I've had a game where I won because they went down to 2. I milled my 8. I hit a Beast Titan's or Colossus Titan's destructive power and just won the game on the spot. So all in all, I'm going to kind of quiet my yapping because I know I've been talking for like 10 minutes straight about this card. I think Smiling Titan is back. I think this character is cool again. And if you take her to Albuquerque and you do well with her, I want credit. This character is really, really, really cool. Are there any questions?
Out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of questions, out of curiosity, what what do you feel about Attack Titan attacks? Like, I see that you're not running it. Like, what's your opinion on it?
I've always thought Attack Titan attacks was bad in specifically smiling.
Mhm.
So like, it was always a 12 damage move. In pre-errata, it was 12 damage but only 9 speed, and 9 speed is hella blockable on turn 2.
And that's fair.
Um,
I just figured maybe an attack every turn, like guaranteed attack every turn, is
yeah,
nice,
what
especially
I
when
ended
it's
up
not
being with
big.
that, what I ended up being with it was I just was like, it's fine, but almost every other attack we could be playing in its place is doing more for us, and
That's
we
fair.
don't really need the ability to string more. What we need is
Okay.
the ability to like play better defense, play attacks that are doing more for us and are harder to block. All of them
Mhm.
are demanding answers. So
Okay.
I end up cutting Attack Titan attacks for that reason.
That's fair.
The only thing I would swap here is I would swap 4 too big to contain for 4 Beast Titan attacks if you have $120 to spend. Because I think uh, like I lost one of my games against the Rodon player, and I think if I had access to a consistently recurable throw, in the way Beast Titan attacks is, that game very likely shifts more heavily in my favor.
So speaking of pay to win, and I say this with intense sarcasm, but maybe not really. I guess I don't know. That's where we're at these days. How do you feel about getting sweeping daggered? This deck seems like I have a lot of attacks that are
So
not there when they're to filthy attack.
I like that you asked that because I did again Rodon matchup that happens all the time. You're gonna get hit with sweeping daggers. So here's the thing. I think the whole sweeping dagger ruins your deck is a bit overrated because when you look at what we have here in terms of hits, Colossus Titan attacks is like a solid grab, but we only run 2 of it. And even then, they require to have a good momentum out for it to really get its value. Otherwise,
Honestly, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, otherwise it's a 4 damage throw, and you go, okay,
Right. That's basically what I was gonna say. Like, I don't think them grabbing Colossus Titan attacks is even remotely scary. Two
Yeah.
momentum, maybe, but like that is the least problematic thing that they could hit. Like, I am more scared of the Ravages, and I am more scared of let's see, what do you got here? You got Ravages. Oh, Unexpected Outcomes. That's the other one I'm a little
So
scared of.
let's talk a little bit about those two. Unexpected Outcomes, it is actually part of the reason I am playing it as a 2 of. It just is in my discard pile less for Sweeping
Right.
Daggers. And we don't really need the card. So it's like really nice when we see it. It is a fast move that they have to be prepared to handle, and they have to be thinking about the fact that if they hold attacks in their hand, I may grab them. So it's good to play it as a 2 of. But by playing in fewer copies, it's less likely to show up in the discard for them to use. But even then, it's like a risk reward for them to grab, because if I've gripped one card in hand, which I often do in this deck, there's a decent chance it's an attack, but there's ever the chance it's not. And when they do that and they go for that value, they often wind up, or they sometimes will wind up just whiffing on it entirely. And even if
Right.
they don't, they're a 3-check deck that's not prepared to play big moves. Am
That's
I
fair.
really that scared of them turning around and trying to play the Ravages in my hand on an 8 diff, where if they check a 3, they commit 5 foundations? Probably not. I'm probably not too
okay.
worried about it.
That's
It can matter, but it's not near as scary. Ravages, that was the one people were like, oh, if they grab the Ravages, you're dead. We
I don't
have
think it's that bad, but it's not good.
we have so much foundational defense that, let's say I have one card in hand, because that was often the case. One, I can recruit that off of Botons or Bun Collector, and I'm kind of in the same spot. So the discard doesn't matter as much. We have ways to play around it. And even if we don't have a way to draw at that point, we're still playing the Invincible Bodies, the Always Cools, the League Invitations, the Last Second Rescues. We're saying, hey, I've got a bunch of foundational defense. You've left my hand floodgate open. I'm going to play all of this to make sure you still can't kill me. So that's already one thing. And since we ramp so much in this deck, it's designed to ramp, them popping one of our foundations, as long as it's not exactly turn 2,
Relatively material, yeah.
Yeah.
then it feels relatively immaterial. And then finally, I think the best hit is probably Colossus Titan's Destructive Power. I have definitely had games where like I only had 2 foundations left up at the end of my turn, where like because I tried to maybe overextend a little bit. But they were going to be 2 really good ones. Like, oh, I'll have an Invincible Buddy. I'll have an Always Cool. I'll be fine. And then they play the Sweeping Daggers. They remove this. And I go, crap, I now have no defense up. Like, there are... this is probably the only one that I legitimately get nervous of. But on the final thing in the Sweeping Daggers, with all of these, the biggest thing is at the end of the day, Sweeping Daggers is a 4 damage move. If your
Yeah, that
character,
occurred to me.
yeah,
Yeah, that almost the biggest hits for sweeping daggers are true 100% smash or true not 100% smash, true 100% power unleashed and Patrick babies these days, and those are so powerful because they add fat stacks of damage on top of your printed damage, and it has more printed damage than they're supposed to,
yeah,
and at a cheaper price. Yeah, do any of your attacks that powerful? You just have the one EX.
I have no powerful attacks in this deck.
Yeah,
Um,
so that makes actually that's a really powerful framing then of just it's a pretty 4 damage move. I'm fighting over your damage output, and yeah, you can tear me up, you can discard my hand, whatever. I'm the smiling type. I don't need a hand.
yep. I think like a big thing to think about with this, when you think about why Sweeping Daggers is good, like we could have a whole like 30-minute conversation on what makes Sweeping Daggers like a good card in the competitive landscape, but it's that it is flexible. It is in most decks where attacks are doing different things, where you've got utility attacks like Moth and big damage attacks like Battle or Release or Patrick Baby or any of those, where all your attacks are doing different things. Sweeping Daggers becomes the Swiss Army knife for whatever you need. In this deck, most of my attacks are doing roughly the same thing, which people are calling Wonder Bread in chat, and you're not wrong. But by them all mostly doing the same thing and all being like utility, more control-ish pieces, when we get Sweeping Daggers, if it fits that hand for them, that's really good. But in a lot of hands, it was like, oh, I was going to use Sweeping Daggers as my kill move. I can't kill with any of these cards. So what am I going to do? And the answer is it just doesn't feel super useful. And I ask myself, like, is it really that much better that they're going to hit one of these than they're going to hit, say, the Lethal Slash that draws a card and removes itself, or the Kraken that was going to tap down a piece, or Patrick Babies, True 100%, all of these cards that are like your big kill cards in other decks. And I don't think, because it's so normal statted, it really feels like that big of a deal when it hits one of these.
Yeah, I love that your spiel was, oh yeah, we have like the old Smiling Titans damage output back from a shift attack, which sweeping daggers can't touch.
Yeah, yeah, it's like cool. You don't get the 13 damage. You get 4. Kill
If
me
they're
on
playing
4.
if they're playing some shift backup attacks, and they can like imagine you like playing against Pony and she sweeping daggers you, steals the Beast Titan Skull, then flips into Aaron Taymaker.
You know
I mean,
what?
that'd
I
be sick.
deserve to lose at
That'd
that
be
point.
sick.
If they do that, I'm like, you know what?
That'd be so cool.
God's on your side. You got it, man.
Yeah, they
Like,
look at 4 cards and hit it there. Yeah.
no, I am almost scared to market this deck too hard because I think a Smiling Titan meta can be like toxic. I know, but I legitimately think this deck is really, really strong. Like, I really struggle to find where its obvious weak point is. I think it's just really it's really well positioned right now.
Yeah, I think it's entirely plausible. You're completely right. It's a really good deck that it has like no terrible weaknesses in the meta. I think it's how fast, like in your best case, how long of a game are you playing? Like, are you
Uh,
expecting to win on turn 3 very often or ever? Are you expecting to win on turn 2 ever?
7-handers turn 2 is off the table at this point. Like it is gone. We're not
Which
getting
doesn't
the
happen.
high
Yeah.
roll 12 damage, 12 speed moves. I'm gonna kill you. Which honestly, I think that was the worst. Like, I never really enjoyed games where that happened. It just felt like nothing happened. So I'm kind of glad those are gone. Um, but I think now it is really well positioned. I think nowadays it's a turn 3 deck against 7-handers, and against 5 or 6-handers, it can be a turn 3 deck if they don't play defense. More realistically, it's a turn 4 deck. But we have so much good defense now, we can really last those turns 3 and 4 so consistently.
Yeah, and I really love the games where you're playing a Ravages of War game, and like they have invincible bodies or whatever. They have their what's the pageant queen, right? Like, and now they stack foundation to its effect, and they also stack another foundation to defend it. And then like they're actually constrained on their own offense when now they're getting they've spent too many resources defending, and now they're
Oh,
weakened out that way. Which is also like if you play against Hanji, like and they mismanage their resources, it's really easy for that deck to overexert itself
I
trying to defend.
I was talking to like about like Nonagon in this matchup. Like, our opponent Nonagons us. And I'm like, yeah, you Nonagon my Ravages of War, you keep the momentum and the card in hand. That can matter. But I'm
You still have
still
an 8/8 coming at you, yeah.
sorry, you have a 12/8 or an 8/12
Right,
coming at you.
right.
And you still sacked a foundation. Like I still got that part of the value. So
Right.
like it really, like, whenever they have to use a permanent resource like that, it really usually feels pretty fine for us. Because this deck can play really late game when it needs to, and it can really build out when it needs to. I haven't gone to talk about it, or I haven't really decided to talk about that much, but I think League Invitation feels so good in this deck. Like, the number of times I've played against a Nick Reagan, and I'm like, oh, I need to survive this turn because if I survive this turn, he's dead for sure. I'm going to flip this League Invitation. Oh, you checked a 3? Hey, let's commit that Science Bros of yours. You're now going to have a way harder time trying to kill me.
Yeah, here's half a showdown that I didn't pay for. I didn't have to block. I didn't have to play a card in my hand.
It was free. And not only was it free, it was off of a committed foundation. This wasn't even ready to do it. And again, on our offensive kill turns, I've had some fun hands where I've like played around a barrier shield because I've had like 2 of these up. And I'm like, I'm going to commit both of these, give your thing -4 speed because you have no foundation, or -4 your checks, you have no foundations up or whatever. You're going to make it 0 speed. I'm now going to give it the 5 speed or the 4 speed. You're still going to have to figure out how to play around that. So I think there's like really interesting edge cases where this just does a lot.
Yeah, fake +2 speed is really cool. Like there's angles to that.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
And if we ever really need to tap down a card, we can commit to give -2 their check, and then they're guaranteed checking a 3 on the flip. And it's like, hey, do you really want to commit 4 no matter what to get this, keep a card up? The answer is probably no. I just think that where this deck is really, really well positioned. I think there are still iterations, particularly in the sideboard, to go, but I think it is really well positioned in the meta right now.
Oh yeah, and like the Death Symbol has a trillion playables. Like there's so many cards you can play that are a reasonable choice that range from like reasonable to kind of out there, but maybe you're like anti-metaing something. So yeah, it's a deep well to play.
But yeah, so
before you talk about the attune, it's such a great mechanic.
Absolutely. So I'm excited for the life death character that we're going to eventually get in AOT 3. I'm just going to make it clear I don't know any future characters, but I'm excited for the life death character we'll get in AOT 3 that also plays the 4-check package exceptionally well. Given that we have 3 AOT characters with those symbols who do that, give me the final one. Give me the last one.
No.
All right, so a reminder to pre-order a pre-release entry at your local game store. You can get 180 loyalty points if you pre-register up at April 25th. That's a lot of promos. That's like almost a whole Clash deck if they put, or Challenger Series deck if they put those back up again. And yeah, the previous for Attack on Titan Apocalypse are coming May 9th until the 15th.
With the actual release following on the 16th.
Yep, absolutely.
Peak Cinema is going to have to be next week.
Like we were happy to talk more about Peak and other reveals next week.
Yeah, once we have all the characters out, I would love to do a segment where everyone tells me like, or we all say like, what is the character you're wanting to build from this set? And I'm sure someone will mention Peak at that point.
I mean, the character I'm excited for, I don't know what they do, but Chris Smith has been very broadcasting which character he has. He's posted it already, and it's one of my favorite characters from the series. I'm so excited for his reveal tomorrow.
Yeah, speaking of, I think I can
say
this.
Ahead.
I think I can say this. Go check out the grind tomorrow, which is the final round team testing night. It's usually streamed on either Chris's channel or on Tam's channel, because that might be where you're going to find out about Chris's character. So it'll be tomorrow evening, usually around 6 o'clock will be when we start. I'm sure Chris will post more information about it tomorrow.
Yeah, he has a video reveal scheduled on his YouTube channel. He posted it in the main cord.
Yeah.
When's the video reveal tomorrow?
I believe he said 7:30, the same time we did today.
Cool. So it'll be
7:30 EST.
So it'll be the time when we're doing the grind. That makes sense. He's doing the Tam Cardwell thing. He's not being like us and bullying people in 30 minutes. But yeah. All right. Well, as we're kind of closing out, good week as always. Would anybody, particularly Broberg, you think you're the only one with a channel that's not sick?
You
market.
can plug Tim's channel.
I'll plug
for him.
Tim's. I'll plug Tim's. But bro, you
Did I
want to
change
market
the
yours?
name of my channel? Did I change the name of my channel? Good. Let me double check. Oh yeah, I'm still Broberg Universes on YouTube. I posted a video about 2 days ago without really promoting it anywhere because it's terrible. But I did yap at the camera for a while about my Hanji Four Eyes deck that I brought to teams in Denver and is playing not safety fours, is playing kind of the Caden aggro package with a slightly different twist on it. I don't know if I recommend it. Also playing Command Firepower, so it's like really outdated and useless. But I did post a deck about that and yapped a bit about kind of the positioning of the deck and what you can do with Hanji. Differently than playing sort of the wall them out forever game plan. You can kill people on turn 2, especially if you have sweeping daggers and Colossus SWAT. And I intend to post more rules tech videos there eventually.
And even though he doesn't post a ton, I will always say check out Broberg's channel because he has some of the best informative content. Like
especially when it's in short form like that.
Especially when it's in short form, like he's really good about just taking an idea, crystallizing it, and making it really easy to understand for the audience. He's one of 2 people on this podcast who do it really well, and I'm going to plug the other guy, Satonis, aka Tim Keefe, youtube.com/@Satonis, CETONIS. Tim Keefe, I think, does some of the best broad stroke talk about the metagame and everything content currently in the community. I think his ban list video where he talks about like what is going on, this was a couple ban lists ago, was one of the best videos script wise that this community has created. So please check him out. I think he's really good. And then unfortunately, neither myself or Will currently have a channel to my knowledge, unless Will, you've developed something last week.
Nah. The only thing we should plug here for YouTube outside of Tim and Broberg's channels are our own replay, like for older episodes. Theoretically, did you upload the one from 2 weeks ago or no?
Everything is uploaded up to date.
Everything's caught up until today. Okay.
Yeah.
And then theoretically, we'll get tonight's video uploaded in case someone missed.
Yeah, I will get this one. I will actually push this one through by sometime tomorrow, so that way no one who watched it or anyone who didn't watch it live can see the reveal. So this will be uploaded by the end of the day tomorrow. So yep, it's at 4ChecksCast, just like our Twitch name. That's where we post all of our VODs. That's where you're gonna get to see, kind of catch up on whatever you missed or whatever you didn't get to see live.
Put up the preview so it gets it ahead of Chris's. Put up a premiere of the preview video.
Put up a premiere at 7:29 p.m.
That's so mean. Yeah. That's so mean.
But yeah. No, anyways, thank you all for coming out. It was a great time.
Yeah, thanks, Chad, and thank you, my fellow co-hosts. It's been an excellent show. I'm so thrilled to have gotten this to preview Hanji Titan. Jesus Christ, Hanji Zoe for 14th Commander of the Survey Corps. I love Attack on Titan. I was over the moon when I saw I got to.
Hanji is definitely one of the characters I like, and I was very happy to get them.
I know nothing about the anime, but hey, I'm glad everyone else here is happy about it. And I thought the character was so cool. I think the character itself is insanely fun. And I'm just excited we got to have a reveal. Thank you to Tim Keefe, because spoiler alert, this was actually Tim's reveal originally, for getting the opportunity to let us talk about it in the cast. I wish he had been here to talk about it with us. Yeah,
and thanks to UVS Games for giving it to us in the first
place.
place.
Thank you to UVS Games, because it was really cool to get to do this reveal, and hopefully you'll consider us for more in the future. I promise we'll be more brand safe.
We weren't that bad.
No, we were fine. All right. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop yapping. We're going to hop off. Catch you later.
Everyone have a good night.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.